When he was born, he has a double crown, and the doctor told me I had genius here. I named him after my grandfather, who lived to be 93 years old. Cars, really, it wasn't his forte. He liked business. He used to say, I'll be a millionaire at 25. And it really came about.
When I was a little kid, the thing I rode was a cowboy. Well, it wasn't that dramatic. I mean, it wasn't something, you know, I woke up one night and said, oh my God, I must build a car. I was destined to do that. And it really wasn't a long boyhood dream. I mean, I've always liked beautiful cars, and I've always liked to own beautiful cars, and in many cases I've been fortunate and been able to own some what I call beautiful cars. But they've always dissatisfied me. And yet, although the American auto industry is always knocked for not being progressive enough, when you get into a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Chrysler or an American Motors product, you can usually depend when you turn the key, it's going to start. And it just seemed to me they missed one thing that people really want, and that's some beauty on the outside. When they did come out with a beautiful car of any limited production, it was eaten up. The Corvette has shown consistently that they sell everything they can build, although they chose not to build tremendous quantities. The Datsun came out with a magnificent car in the 240 in that it was a pretty car at a reasonable price. And they sold all they could build, which was even considerably more than the Corvette. Yet nobody took it to mean that they could combine all these features and still sell even more if they wanted to. And maybe because they didn't want to, it makes no difference to me, but I saw the hole in that market, and I said, hey, if we could add all those things and add safety, which seems to be incongruous with beauty, then maybe we'll take a step forward, not necessarily for the good of the world, but for a very profitable venture, which in the same turn would be good for future generations and changes in the automobile industry. A lot of people told me I was crazy, and these vernacular, yeah, a few people told me I was full of shit. I thought less of them when they did. I think more of them now because they were more right than wrong at the time. I just didn't realize it, thank God. First thing we did, and of course you have to understand we were very naive at the time, and we just assumed you build one car and then of course you're ready to manufacture. So we came up with a basic design that we later put into our first car, which we call the gray experimental car, which we thought was going to be representative of what we're going to build.
Malcolm had the faculty of dreaming and working very hard to make that dream come true. Many of us, including myself, we dream of things that we would like to do. And we watch the boats go down the river, things of that nature. We don't do anything about it. We are armchair dreamers. He is one of those people that dream and go about trying to make it happen.
I assume that when I want to do something, I'm laying on my deathbed. And based on that fact, what is it that I would have done to make me satisfied to lay there? And if I haven't done that, then I want to do it now. In my second year of college, I decided that what I wanted to do was join the life stream. And somehow I just didn't feel going to school allowed you to join the life stream.
He felt that his father could teach him more about business than the professors. And he was business-oriented. I objected, but rather than let him go 2 years and wasting his time there, he immediately got involved in business. And so, fortunately, as we can see, it came out all right.
We went out, we started hiring some people from the big three who really knew what they were doing. And they informed us that although it was an interesting design exercise, it had no validity in the real world of automobile business, which was not only disappointing, but at first we wouldn't even believe what they had to say. And then they started explaining to us, we have to start all over with clays, but this time they have to be accurate to 2/10,000ths of an inch.
Wow. Yes, sir.
Adios hat. I'm old enough to remember serials in the movie. And it always seems there was a cliffhanger. Somebody was hanging by a thread. But that really wasn't the end, because when you came to the movie the next week, they saved him. We were lucky enough to hire a man by the name of Herb Grass, who was professional and knew how to take the car that we had built and keep the same feel, but add the necessary touches to make it manufacturable automobile.
Malcolm and I hit it off super right in the beginning. He's a free thinker, and so am I. His ideas are 2001 all the way, and he came to me with an idea: develop a safety sports car. This is a challenge. Detroit is used to the boxy type of vehicle. You take your large luxury automobiles, they're almost an answer to low-cost housing, and this was a designer's dream.
Hydraulic door with a jack screw at the A-post, which would put us at the center of the load, and run by cable to a motor which would be buried in the B-post.
We were looking for the best people around. We were also looking for the most open-minded people.
You have to have a power force.
Well, wait a second, stop. Do we agree that if you move this down this way, you can have all the pressure you want? We weren't looking for people who just could come to us and say, this is the way it's always been done, this is the way you must do it. We were very fortunate. Most of the people we hired, and most of the people who have stuck with us, are those kind of people.
Oh, stop.
You say it seems to make sense. You're saying that it's going to be more difficult than he says.
That's right.
Fine. It's going to be one or the other or someplace in between.
Yeah.
But rather than theorize anymore, because some of our very good ideas weren't good and some of our very bad ideas were great, why don't we just go ahead?
He always thinks when something is successful. He never thinks if. When I first met Mal, I was getting over another love. And I had 2 other dates before I met him, and I went on those 2 dates, and that was the last time I dated anybody. I was all of 17. I thought he wasn't the best looking guy going. He had big horn rimmed glasses and a crew cut, and he was tall and very, very skinny. But he was really nice, and he had a lot of personality. We just sort of, I guess, hit it off. I always knew that Mal would be successful. How successful, I didn't know, and what's more, I really didn't care.
When he was about 19 or 20, he used to say, I'll be a millionaire at 25. And of course, we only took it as a joke, but it really came about.
As he grew up into the ripe age of around 21, he had an idea of starting a hardware chain of handyman stores.
I took advantage of something that had been a phenomenon at the time, which was 7-Eleven grocery stores, which is open 7-Eleven 7 days a week. And I found that also worked for building and building supplies. I thought being a millionaire was a very important goal, and so I set my goal at that. And then I became a millionaire, and I realized that it wasn't quite as important or quite as magnificent as I thought at the time. And then I ceased setting goals, or at least goals that I could reach. Because if you set goals that you reach, the worst that could happen is you reach them. And then what do you do for your encore?
From that time on, anything he'd say, I feel it'll come about.
If I knew that it would take $20 to $25 million to get to where I am today, I would never start, because I cannot raise $20 or $25 million. I don't know of any banks or governments or provinces or friends that'll give me that kind of money. Again, I assumed it was going to cost a maximum of $3 million. And I was prepared at that time to put up sufficient of my money, and I felt convinced that I could raise the difference, if necessary, to come up with that kind of money. When the figures start getting to $5 or $6 million, I start getting a little nervous, because now we were starting to run close to where I couldn't come up with it. And there again, I felt, well, if that's all it really is, I can probably come up with that too. When the figures started running at $10 or $12 million, I started getting worried, because I didn't know where I was going to get it. And I tell you the truth, between then and now, I don't really know what happened, but somehow it rose to $20 or $25 million.
Malcolm has always had a vivid imagination. And he fortunately has the art of communication. If he has an idea, he can sell it to someone.
There's no magic. You just say, I'm going to knock on every door, I'm going to talk to every person that I possibly can, no matter how stupid it may be, until something happens. And if you plant enough seeds, it seems like enough corn starts to grow. There are two specific gentlemen that have the kinds of imagination, along with gut feel, that I just happened to be lucky enough to find. First one was John Bunning, who was chairman of the board of First Pennsylvania Company, which is a very conservative, very large bank. He felt that this car could happen, and he was willing to put the bank's money where his mouth was, based on the fact that we could reach certain goals. To couple that, we had to come up with sufficient capital to build a factory, not just the engineering. And there again, we were lucky enough to meet a man like Premier Hatfield from New Brunswick.
I thought, you know, this man is for real, and this is exciting, and this is something that this proposal will work, and this is a response to a high demand.
If you were going to give me the scenario to begin with, I would tell you that's impossible. That's out of a book someplace. But the facts are, we found those two people, and without those two people, there would be no car.
What is the root of it? It's faith, personal faith, in what you're doing. And, you know, he has it in abundance. He has it to give away.
We were asked, when we were first given our loan, when we thought we would be in production. We gave our best estimates, which were horrendous. You do have to understand that they've said it can't be done, and we have to admit it has been difficult. And since we have never built a car, it became very difficult to estimate. And because of those wrong estimations, it gave valid grounds for questioning the validity of the total project. Fortunately, we had very, very strong backing of confidence from the province.
The most important thing is to make a gut determination, and that's the only way you can make it. You know, is this man who says he wants to come to your province, and wants to invest and has this proposal, you know, is he a con artist or is he really an entrepreneur? I made the decision that Malcolm Bricklin was an entrepreneur.
The words con and the words rip-off are too glibly applied, and my interpretation is simply, when you get involved in something and you win, no matter what happens to the project, then you're ripping off something. Since I was willing to put up everything I owned into the operation, unless it was successful, there's no way that I could even come back to ground zero.
After he had sold out his interest in the handyman stores, he was able to sell Fuji Heavy Industries on bringing an automobile into the United States and giving him an exclusive contract to sell that automobile because he was able to sell himself to the Japanese people.
My distribution for Subaru automobiles provided me with sufficient capital and expertise to get myself involved in this.
Good opportunity to get in on a brand new concept of cars, a car that nobody's manufactured before.
Nobody has ever attempted to make an acrylic reinforced fiberglass car.
It's like anything else that's new. It's going to be hard to build. They don't just fall together. None of these guys have ever worked in an assembly plant before. And everybody says he wears love beads and he wears blue jeans, you know. And he's got a lot more on the ball than a lot of people give him credit for. He's a hell of a promoter.
Malcolm's the sort of guy you've got to run very fast to keep up with. He goes at about 1,000 miles an hour and he thinks at the same speed.
We should be able to put more quality into that car than any other car that's ever been built. We have an advantage over people like Rolls-Royce, who do not use a tremendous amount of machinery, but use a tremendous amount of hand labor. And we have an advantage over Detroit that uses a tremendous amount of machinery, and the hand labor has to work too fast. The big three are really in favor of what I'm doing. There's a lot of conversation in the United States that the best good for the country would be breaking them up. Because my success is the best indication that competition can exist and innovative ideas can come forth. I really truly believe that they're enthusiastically interested in my success.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is from, it looks like a child. Dear Mr. Bricklin, thank you for sending me the poster and letter. You are probably one of the only persons now connected with a big company who is nice enough to answer a kid. Since the last letter I wrote, I have gotten 3 magazines just because they have something about the Bricklin. P.S. Your poster of the Bricklin is the only thing my mom ever let me hang directly on the wallpaper in my room. I remember when I was a little kid, the thing I'd rather be, I wanted to be a policeman and I wanted to be a fireman, but I think the thing I really wanted to be was a cowboy.
All we have experiences is
basically all of us are kids. The question is, do we feel foolish or not? I guess I did feel foolish when I lived in Philadelphia. When you live in Arizona, you don't feel foolish. It's as if you'd wear a suit in New York and you'd wear a turban in India. You're allowed to go around wearing dungarees and cowboy hats in Arizona. I think I enjoy children more than adults. Or better than that, I think I like adults that are willing to act like children. I've reached that age where I'm willing to act like a child and still be counted as an adult. People are very concerned about doing their duty, whether it be 20 years of work, whatever it is, till retirement, and then they're going to live. If I go to sleep looking at my watch, hoping that there's long hours between now and the time I wake up, I know that tomorrow is not going to be too exciting. And I therefore better change whatever it is tomorrow is going to be. The real question you have to ask is, are you willing to exist, or are you willing to be special? And special is not what somebody else thinks of you, but it's what you think of yourself. We didn't just build a car, we built a magnificent car that will be acclaimed around the world, that we will all be proud of, and me especially to be proud to have my name on the back of that car. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Malcolm, come on, let's go for a drive.
It involves a certain amount of basics that I believe are going to be in the cars of the future, and that the future is going to be that much closer today than it would have been if we weren't around. Starting from the exterior skin, the use of acrylics, I think are going to be accelerated by 5 or 10 years by the major manufacturers in the world, because what it does is allows that body to look just as beautiful 20 years from today, unlike steel bodies. There is not any chrome, except for the name, which is ironic.
Now always has like little gadget type things. Our bed has stereo in it and lights, and I think the doors reflect Malmos?
The doors are a very important factor of our car. It shows that people are interested in sex appeal, and that sex appeal can also have a value. Those doors are a very expensive thing to put into operation, but they're also something that's very safe, because it gives you a tremendous opening to get in and get out, and also opens into traffic a lot less. Underneath the body, we've devised some very basics in framework and in absorption and in rollover factors that are going to be used, not 100%, but are going to be used as models for what should be as far as safety.
When we had the prototype and I saw this fantastic car coming at me, and then when I got closer I realized it was the BRICKLIN, and God, it really looked good.
Have I had failures? Constantly. But I think failure is really when you lay down to die. If you haven't done most of the things you wanted to do, then you're a failure. But if you assume that when you went to the bank today and you didn't get your money, you're a failure, or if you didn't sell enough whatever it is you wanted to sell today, you're a failure, then you're going to be a very unhappy person. But the reason you're going to be unhappy is because you're equating failure as the wrong way. To me, the end of the book is the end of the book. And that means you were born and you're dead. And that's the book. The chapters in between are just chapters. And I hope the end of the book isn't here yet.